We have a massive amount of European banks ensnared in this widening Russian money laundering scandal. If you don't know what's going on, let me catch you up to speed here real quick. There are a lot of banks in Europe that have been tainted by this money laundering scandal that a lot of outlets are not talking about. And this involves major banks, and I believe that this is why. Because when this whole thing starts to come down, the whole house of cards starts to come down. All of these major banks that operate through these central banks globally are connected. Behind the scenes, if they're not, they come in, they overthrow, and they take control of that area. Now, some countries don't have the central bank set up the way that the money masters like. Other places, let's say like Venezuela, they have a central bank. A lot of people said they didn't, but they do. And that's just lack of research right there and doing their own digging. But they have a central bank that's being ran and occupied by someone other than the hand, so to speak, inside of Venezuela. This is why when Maduro went to try to get his gold back from the UK, they said, you're not getting it. Now, how fair is that out here on the world stage? Well, other countries are taking different measures, making sure that, I guess, they get what they feel is rightfully theirs. One of them is Russia, and what they've been doing is they have been laundering money through this Troika laundromat group through all these different banks for years. Now, the scandal first began to take shape around a year ago when ABLV, which is the third largest bank in Latvia, was forced into liquidation over allegations that it laundered money from North Korea's ballistic missile program. You got to watch the connections here as it goes back into Russia. They're saying a few months later, reports started circulating in Estonia of the same stuff, and this connected Danske Bank, and then in the end, they say that Estonia, Dutch, European, and U.S. authorities are all cracking down on this because this all seems to have ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, they also go on to say the DB Bank, the bank that I have talked about over and over again, has been exposed also in its role in clearing nearly all of these transactions through its correspondent banking unit. That's how far and widespread this goes. Massive. And see, this is where the curtain starts to fall. Because when all these people were getting hung out to dry for DB Bank and other banks here within the past year, the United States and no one else didn't say a word. Why? Because they've got bankers up in here all across the place as well, all across the board, involved with all these banks. And there's laundering going on across the board around the globe. Now, of course, if they want to target, say, Putin or Russia, then this is what's going to happen. All this information is going to get spilled, trying to paint them as being bad guys, as doing all this dirt, and that it's their fault. So at this point, that's where it sits. And they're saying that this is just a huge operation that was involving a ton of different banks. No surprise to me here. I'm just hoping that other people out there open their eyes and they see what's going on. If this is happening, you are talking about the biggest banks throughout Europe being involved in criminal activity. And I'm just wondering, is the whole world just going to sit back and let criminals continue to carry on? Or is righteous men and women going to rise to the occasion at some point and arrest people that are breaking the law and set things into a righteous trend? Until that day comes, well, these guys that keep printing money out of thin air and doing stuff like this, money laundering, but yet if any of you get caught doing it, you're smoked, you see? But they're going to keep doing it all day long up here in the upper echelons, here on this world stage, it seems, until something gives. That's where it sits. Going to leave a link. It's been Dabu7.